Matthew has asked for other members of the congregation to lead some of these midweek musings. This one is called Alpha and Omega. For me, one of the positive outcomes of lockdown has been that I've had more contact with old friends online, who previously I would only seen at occasional events to which we all travelled. Most Friday mornings at 8 o'clock, I sit at this desk, put these headphones on, and I meet up with 3 other people I went to university with over 40 years ago. We are an interesting mix. It's that early because some of us are still working. David is ordained, although he primarily spends his time working as a therapeutic counsellor. Paul is retired from his senior position at IBM and is a magistrate. Mark is a consultant and supports the development of agricultural projects in Africa and in the Far East. And I'm a director of a software company. We do catch up on our news each time we meet, but very quickly we start to drill down to consider weighty matters. Indeed, recently I was reminded it was only 8:10 when I asked an in-depth question. What works is that none of us have a particular agenda to push. Although we all hold different views, some go to church, some others don't, and even though we are all men, there is very little testosterone flying about between us, probably because we are running out of it. The net effect is we're all interested in listening to each other rather than scoring points. There's a genuine curiosity, along with a desire to get to really know each other more before it's too late. One of the impacts of the COVID pandemic has been to put death front and centre. Who would have ever thought that we'd have the number of UK deaths from a disease announced each day on the news bulletin, and that we would all want to know? This all gives a sense of urgency to telling stories about how we have lived our lives, our living obituaries, expressed in my case during the first lockdown in the production of scrapbooks. The opportunity to pull out from files all sorts of memorabilia. I do not want to give the impression that the Friday meeting is a dour conversation. That's the last thing it is. When Paul recently shared a picture of his children, Mark commented that they all looked like him, to which Paul replied that was reassuring. However, there is a reason why we're having these sorts of discussions now. COVID has not only given us the opportunity to have these regular discussions because we're all at home, it has also set a backcloth against which all these discussions are taking place. Last Friday we did not meet. Paul was in Ilkley attending the funeral of his father, and at the same time David was in the hospital in London waiting the arrival of his 3rd grandchild, Lydia. It was a planned caesarean that had been brought forward a week, and his son-in-law could not attend because he is isolating with COVID. At his father's funeral service, Paul read this line from Revelations. Then he said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end." Friday was truly an Alpha and Omega day for our group. There's no doubt that since the COVID pandemic arrived, our ability to engage in the important rituals of birth and death have been limited. We have had 2 grandchildren arrive. You may have seen Evie Louise and her mum Sarah praying at the Christmas Eve service. And we also have Dylan Lawrence, who lives in Ipswich, and therefore we've only met him in the flesh once, but seen lots of him on Zoom. There's no point pretending that it's been easy for either their parents or for us as grandparents, because it hasn't. The new and important birth rituals of Dad's being at the birth have been difficult, along with the presentation of the babies to the wider family. For Paul, along with so many others who have been arranging funerals in lockdown, there's also not been the opportunity to remember the life of his dad among the wider group of people who knew him and remember him fondly, which includes me. He was a gentle man. Yet we are people of hope. It will get better. We will be able to spend more time with Ava and Dylan. David will be able to spend time with Lydia, and we will be able to remember Jeff more fully. My hope, though, that it's not the end of my regular Friday morning slot with these amigos. Just the beginning.